Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Melanie from Late Beams Treasures, and today is Sunday, January 30th, 2022. So, yesterday I started off with my 5 books that I read an excerpt from it. Turns out a lot of people really enjoyed it. They like the way I read, they like my voice. They just thought it's a great way to get a little snippet of the book. Well, I found a book and I'm thinking I want to read this chapter by chapter. It's a semi-short book, but I'm not going to do all the chapters at once. I'm going to present this to you chapter by chapter because I think this will be a really funny thing. And if you like this sort of content, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you don't like it, well, at least you know I am selling this book. The book is called Grossology and You. It's by Sylvia Branzei, illustrated by Keely. Some of these illustrations, as you can see strictly from the cover, are hilarious. So I'm going to read excerpts from this book. Well, actually, I'm going to read chapter by chapter, and we'll see how this goes. If anybody is interested, selling it for $1. But let's start with chapter one, simply because I want to keep these videos down, not too long. So I figured 10 minutes, do a little bit of reading, and we'll see how far I get. So, grossology, a gross introduction. Gross is in the eye of the beholder. When you see people, they don't disgust you. Well, maybe the bratty kid next door who has constant snot hanging from his nose. So most of the time, people don't revolt you. That is because you're used to seeing skin covered, lightly furred, 2-eyed beings. If you saw a person walking down the street with no skin and just a bunch of blood covered muscles, you would think it was yucky. However, if everyone walked down the street as a bag of muscles, you probably think a skin person was really icky. The same thing goes for a vein woman or a skeleton kid or an entrail man. Humans are accustomed to looking at the outside of our bodies. When you get to the insides, it gets all oozy, goopy, sticky, and stinky. It's not pleasant. So, just to show you, you got the little kid with the snotty nose, and then of course you've got ah skins and bones and muscles. That's gross. No, this is gross. What is gross? One person's grossness can be another person's dinner. Ooh, are we getting into a little Fried grasshoppers are a delicious treat eaten in Australia, Africa, Japan, and other parts of Asia. They are popped and crunched much like North Americans eat peanuts. So if you lived in a fried grasshopper eating area, it wouldn't be weird. And fried grasshopper eaters might think that a tube stuffed with pig lips and snouts, otherwise known as a hot dog, is a revolting meal. Like fashion, what gross changes with the time. In the Middle Ages, people thought that taking a bath was bad for you. It was not in fashion. Not needing to bathe was considered a sign of wealth and leisure. Some rich people bragged about never taking a bath at all. Smelly! Now it's quite the opposite. Nowadays, people not only bathe, they deodorize and perfume themselves. Being stinky is not in fashion. So you may read some things in this book and find them completely repulsive. But when you tell your cousin about it, he or me may say, "What's gross about that?" Then again, some things you don't find so bad, your cousin won't even be able to look at you on the page. This is the joy of grossology. Everyone has a personal gross button, and you never know whose you're going to hit. So I'm curious, everyone. I'm gonna, like I said, read this book. I'm gonna go chapter by chapter, and let's see. Do I push buttons with this? So the first chapter is on blood. Think of a bowl of warm blood. What does it look like? You probably see red. What does it smell like? Blood has its own peculiar smell. Put a spoon into it and take it up like a scoop. What does it feel like? Is it sticky? Is it runny? Is it kind of like tomato soup? Or is it cloddy and lumpy, kind of like tapioca pudding? What does it taste like? Blood has never passed these lips. Disgusting. But have you ever eaten blood? No? Are you sure? Blood pudding, anyone? Blood pudding is enjoyed by some people in Europe. It's sweetened with baked blood from a pig or a cow. Does that sound terrible? Hey, don't knock it until you've tried it. Okay, how about blood bread? Bread soaked in blood and then fried. It's quite tasty. Unless, of course, the cook accidentally overrises the bread, then it's kind of like eating scabs. Ew. And then, of course, here's Dracula, the blood. How about mashed potatoes with gravy? Yum. If you've eaten mashed potatoes and gravy, you've tasted blood. No, not the potatoes, the gravy. A recipe for gravy will say take the meat juice, add flour, heat, and stir until thick. Well, meat juice is actually animal blood and melted fat. So gravy is cooked blood. If you order steaks rare, you also have tasted blood. Yummy. When you thought about a bowl of blood, you probably pictured red liquid. Less than half of your body is actually made of red blood cells or erythrocytes. The rest is white blood cells, platelets, and plasma, the liquid that the blood cells float around in. Erythrocytes are so tiny that 7,000 of them could fit on an edge of a penny. 1 teaspoon of blood has 25 billion red blood cells. That's more red blood cells than there are people living on the planet. In your whole body, you have 13 soda cans of blood. That is more red blood cells than all the people who have ever lived on this planet. And it says if you weigh 100 pounds, you're carrying around about 8 pounds of blood. So they give the little example of the soda cans stacked up and how many pounds of blood. The red in the blood cells is from a pigment called hemoglobin. Hemo comes from the Greek word for blood. The hemoglobin pigment has iron molecules, the same iron molecules used to make cannonballs and frying pans. There's only a teeny tiny amount of iron in blood, though, so you don't become weighted down from carrying it. When iron meets oxygen, a gas, it makes red rust. The same is true for blood. It is oxygen combining with the iron in the blood to make it red. The hemoglobin cruises around your body and exchanges much needed oxygen for useless carbon dioxide. Talk about a recycling system. After the red blood cells make their oxygen delivery, they change color and become more purple. The blood in your veins looks blue or purple because they carry erythrocytes without oxygen. It's rust free blood. After about 100,000 trips around your body, the red blood cells get old. Red blood cells can only live for about 2 months because they get bumped and bruised while traveling around through the blood cells. So the blood cells retire. Then your body gets rid of it or uses it to make new red blood cells. Since erythrocytes are important, new ones are constantly made. Many bones inside your bodies contain blood factories, and the bones of your arms, legs, ribs, hips, and back. The blood factories never stop. An adult body makes about 2 million new red blood cells every second. And you thought bones just held your muscles. Then there's a cute little blood cell with the oxygen, and it says blood is thicker than water. Blood is also heavier than water. Quick, what color are white blood cells? Duh, white, of course. Exactly. If red blood cells are the delivery and recycling system of the body, the white blood cells, or leukocytes, are the soldiers. Your body has a built-in military, and a good thing because your body is always under attack. Bacteria, mold, viruses, pollutants, dirt, splinters are just some of the enemies that the white blood cells can destroy. Since not all attacks are the same, not all leukocytes are the same either. One type of white blood cells is called feeding cells. Feeding cells do exactly that. They eat the invaders. They're like mobile blobs squeezing through the walls of blood vessels and attacking. Feeding cells can only eat as much before they become poison and they die. Basically, they eat themselves to death. Then it says people used to think that bad blood was the cause of most diseases. The cure was to cut the patient and drain out all that bad blood. And we've got the bad blood factory. So I've got, let me just see, I've got 2 more pages for the blood chapter, and I will end it there. And this will be chapter 1 of Grossology. Macrophages are large compared to the feeding cells and have a giant appetite. Macrophages eat the slain piles of bacteria, dead feeding cells, and debris in the body's battlefields. The body militia also has another line of defense. These fighters are like special forces. They search and destroy. They are called killer cells. On top of all this is an intelligence unit that remembers every attack and makes special proteins to fight the enemy. That is why you don't get the mumps or chickenpox twice. Every time you get the flu, it's a new virus. If you get exposed to an old flu, the intelligence unit will wipe it out before you get sick. When you get to a small cut or wound, your body looks out for you. It will take about 4 to 8 minutes for your body to halt the bleeding. Then a dried blood cover will form over the cut. This job falls into the fix-a-crew or platelets that barricade the ouchie area. Platelets flow along the blood, but in the face of danger, they change. They become sticky and clump together, forming a plug to stop the blood from leaking. Ever touch a cut after a few minutes? The blood becomes like a jelly-like thick and goopy. The gooey blot is a clot. The clot puts out the reds and crisscross to form a net. When the surface of the clot dries, it forms a scab. And in England, the word bloody is considered a bad word. Blood cells float around in a river of plasma. This yellow liquid is mostly water, but it contains fat, sugar, salts, gases, albumin, which is also found in egg whites, and urea, which also makes up pee. So in 1 tablespoon of blood, there are 25 billion red cells, 35 million white blood cells, and a billion platelets. All of this floats in a plasma soup. Now that's it for the blood. There also happens to be right here a fake blood recipe. So if you're interested in fake blood, you would need cornstarch, red food coloring, powdered cocoa, corn syrup, water, a bowl, spoon, and a measuring cup. And you just put a half a cup of the syrup with 2 teaspoons of water into a bowl and stir well. Add 4 drops of food coloring, stir, and then add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and a half spoonful of powdered cocoa to the mixture. If you stir very, very well, put on clothes that you don't care about because the blood will stain your clothing, and then drip the blood from the side of your mouth, or better yet, put some in your mouth. It's not harmful. It doesn't taste too great either. Go find an unsuspecting person and say, I want to suck your blood. And it's a cute little baddie. I want to suck your blood. Okay, everyone. Grossology. That was chapter 1. I will be reading other chapters. Let me just give you a little heads up of what other chapters include. We have a chapter on pus, sneezing, athlete's foot, brains, bruises, eyeballs, guts, constipation, goosebumps, knuckle cracking, moles, rashes, tongues, varicose veins, warts, and that is what is coming up ahead. So if you like this, like I said, give me the thumbs up. Comment below. If you are repulsed by this, hey, comment below. The more the merrier. I will be reading this book. Got a couple more chapters, but if anybody's interested, it's on sale only for $1. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy a little lesson on grossology and you. Until next time, this is Melanie with Lightbeam's Treasures.